Hi, good afternoon. Maganda umaga sa inyo lahat. I've been in the Philippines for something like 14 years now. And today, I guess a little bit different to the Secretary of Tourism, I'm standing in for my colleague Michael, our master planning lead. So I'll try and take you through what we prepared. And I guess we're thinking maybe at a little bit of a bigger picture than some of the other speakers, and really how development fits into the bigger scale in planning, master planning, to get a total design approach. So when we talk about total design, this is a term that was coined by our founder, ARUP, in about 1960, 1965. ARUP was a Danish engineer, philosopher. He was actually the structural engineer behind the Sydney Opera House. So it comes from a very long background. And when he talks about total design, it was merging, in his case, architecture and engineering. Nowadays, we talk about that in the context of all the other inputs, such as sustainability, environment, finance, and taking a complete integration of the mindset, the outcomes, the expertise, the behaviours, the tools, and the collaboration, and working with all parts of the chain in the design process. Obviously, I think we've talked about some of these numbers previously, in massive increase in tourism in the Philippines, and therefore massive opportunity. And I think the plan from DOT is to take that up even higher to like 8 million. So a massive opportunity and a massive level of development still to do, and a huge income, which is going to go up much more. And I think what we're thinking about is how do we get the most effective outcome from what will be done. Of course, still significant challenges. And I think for today's talk, I'll just concentrate on the three: the limited connectivity in infrastructure, the environmental degradation, and the implications of effectively over-tourism or over-development, and uncoordinated development or uncoordinated urban development, as we've got it here. And I think probably all of us at some point have been caught in this. I've travelled around the Philippines extensively, maybe not in quite so many high-end destinations, but I've been caught in ferries, airports, and things going wrong. So we know what it feels like. So with this piece on limited connectivity, infrastructure. We imagine planning a trip to the pristine location, and of course all our customers get caught in a location like this. Now this is obviously Terminal 3. We've been involved in multiple different parts of the infrastructure chain. So in this one, we actually did structural engineering to retrofit this structure to bring it up to current standards a few years ago. So really integrated understanding of all parts of the cycle. But besides the big ticket projects, we're also working at a smaller scale on some of the smaller regional infrastructure as well, and how all these things fit together. So I think we touched earlier in the workshop, I was talking about Mactan. So you see this is now one of the gateways to the Philippines. The roof structure here, the glulam roof, a timber roof structure, was the structural design that we did, working with our architect colleagues to get that outcome. And now I think this is setting the standard for what airport developers are looking to implement all around the country. So we're working on another project at the moment, and the developer said, could we mirror something like we've got at Mactan? And I think the big picture outcome here is that the structure here, and I think I said it earlier, the glulam roof, nice structural engineering solution, but it also saved a lot of concrete underneath it because the roof structure's a lot lighter, so we need less concrete, it's therefore a bit cheaper to build, saved a lot of embodied carbon as well. So there's massive benefits here. And these are all the sort of bigger picture stories that I think we have to sell to our customers as we go along. And these are lessons we take from other places. So we've got colleagues working in places like Changi. We bring all those lessons to all of these projects wherever we can do. But we sort of go, it's not just about the connectivity and the experience at the terminals, it's also this sort of what happens when you arrive at a location. So this is an example of a project we did in Vietnam, Hon Island. We looked at all of the components, so what would happen when the tourists arrive in the destination, and we can land lots of projects of this type. So this one's about a 570 hectare island south of Phu Quoc. And into this, I guess just to explain a little bit about the picture of maybe what we do, this is the sort of stuff that maybe you don't see happening, and maybe you just see the images coming out afterwards, but there's actually a lot of thinking goes in behind these diagrams, a lot of effectively analysis of planning and consideration of they look really silly, but sometimes they can be quite cheap because in this case, say the foundations are relatively minimal compared to other things we might have to do. So that was what was done in this particular location. Second section, sort of over environmental degradation. So obviously when we get there, we see these problems of plastics and other wastes. And I think we all know what happened in Boracay. We've seen it happen in other locations, and hopefully it doesn't happen anywhere else, but there is that risk as we go forwards. So the challenge is to protect the environment as well as getting the development. So going to another example, this one's in Fiji. So this was where we prepared for a private client, but this was also with the support of IFC. So obviously some of these studies are quite big scale, they might cost a little bit of money to do. So in this case, IFC came in as a funder behind it and supported the client to get the positive outcome. And we've seen World Bank and IFC funding numerous developments in different places. And as you can see from this photo here, the aerial photo, the development's on the tip of the island, and it's actually surrounded by a lot of mangrove, so very similar to conditions we find in the Philippines as well. And there was limited existing development and actually no clear beach for access to the development either. So in the planning, we went through a detailed analysis of the site, and then we start looking at different ways and different places that the users can come in. And the aim of the master plan was just to diffuse the boundaries, so we weren't just getting one entry to the site, we're getting multiple entries, so we're spreading it out, making it more accessible. And the final master plan integrated the road and pedestrian networks, and that's obviously given more opportunity for more revenues as well, because you've got more routes and more people coming in different places, makes it a little bit more flexible, and actually gives more space to open up the development as well. Again, quite a lot of analysis is done underneath this. So there was a financial modelling, quite a lot of engagement was taking place as well. So we've talked about before about engaging community, engaging the customers, so that was done as part of this, looking at the participants, getting their feedback, putting all of that in to ensure that the product mix or the components of the plan was right for the development. And then I guess the advantage of working with a client where you've got someone like IFC behind it is they'll take a more balanced view to it, and hopefully that develops an ultimately more holistic and more sustainable outcome in total. And yeah, so that actually proved in this case there was actually a demand for more low-key impact. I guess our next stage, obviously the nasty statistic of the Philippines contributing a huge portion of waste into the oceans. I mean, we've talked about it before, I think it may come up in the next session as well. Obviously not a statistic that anyone is very keen on at all, and it needs to be changed. But I think maybe some things going on in the positives. So this is a piece of work, and I guess we're sharing this not as a tourism thing, but this is something we're now doing for ADB. We're helping build a digital twin of the Pasig River, looking at where the plastic waste is, and then hopefully helping places where we can take it out of the river as well. Now, ultimately, it's working at the wrong end of the chain. We shouldn't be putting the waste in, but ultimately what we're hoping with the twin is that it can identify where things are coming from, and then we can get back to impact or affecting the source as well, but we have to start somewhere. So this is a really nice example, hopefully, of using technology to take things further. And I think we're also hoping we can get some really positive engagement here as well by creating an app or something that people can interact with. So hopefully we get the whole community or all the stakeholders interested. And I guess anyone who lives in Metro Manila might want to contribute to that as well. But the issue of uncoordinated development is obviously a big challenge. And you've got hubs like Cebu, Davao, Manila, all expanding rapidly. The growth is not really well coordinated, and I think everyone appreciates that's a really big challenge around the Philippines. So we're just going to show you an example here of where we've been working in Tacloban to try and look to see if we can take that and sort that out a little bit. So this is a master plan for the North District of Tacloban, where we've been working with DPWH and the city government. Obviously the image here takes you back to Typhoon Yolanda in 2013. The north area completely devastated, and anyone who went to that area will have seen the effects there, and we know the impact. But USAID and people deployed a lot of aid, it sorted things out, but it's left a legacy of some very uncontrolled development. So the settlements weren't very well planned, and it left a lot of resettlement in places of risk of flooding. And it also meant that the plan wasn't really well set up for future development to take things forward, including tourism. And there wasn't much opportunity for housing and other things in that space. The way we address these problems is to look at this as sort of layers, looking at from the start of the sites and the topography, through the land uses that we could get, what we can do with the land, and other opportunities, sort of aquatic features, and the hazards as well. Assess all of those things, classify the areas, and decide and put them into groups of what we can do with different areas. So we're starting now to take really proper consideration of all the constraints on a development. And then what came out of this particular one, identifying areas that are developable and not developable. So the purple areas are basically forest zones, not really suitable for development. And then we move down into areas that can be developed, but with proper analysis and reasoning behind why that's the case. Then the planning process took us into looking at different characters for different areas. What can we do with different things? And actually then starting to think how we can actually use the land most effectively. So, and also linking up the images you see as sort of other locations. So really taking typologies from other locations, working out how that could be deployed into these new areas. Coming up with a very holistic land use plan then, dividing the areas up, of which you can also do some very sensible economic analysis. And also we hope then when development starts to take place, it allows developers to take really reasoned decision making as to what they think might be going on around it. So it's very easy to work out the economics of future development. Ultimately, in this particular case, we produced the master plan for the North District, identified lots of opportunities for things like recycled water, solar rooftops, electric vehicles mixed in. So all planned out thoroughly, all backed up by proper analysis and proper numbers. So these numbers don't just get conjured up from somewhere, they're actually properly calculated with a basis. Obviously, they might change a little bit. And that gives a really key concept for the development, the actual allocation of land within this space. So a number of different things considered, both residential, agricultural, the tourism component of it is also built in, and also looking at all the other infrastructure to go around it, like buses, cycling routes, and the roads that take the traffic around. So ultimately, when something gets developed in this area, we hope it fits in well, and then the experience to the users is really very good. Just to wrap up, I guess it's just a very quick demonstration of how looking at a higher level gives hopefully a better opportunity for the actual individual developments then to be placed in the right place and deliver positive outcomes that take account of all the features that they need to, and ultimately be most sustainable and allow the next stage of the development, which is the individual properties, to be the most sustainable outcome that they can get.